Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with Part 9, Buddhism in Japan, from the Adepts in the Eastern Esoteric Tradition, by Manly Palmer Hall, Part 2, the Arhats of Buddhism. Buddhism in Japan. Umayado, the eldest son of the Emperor Yomei, was one of the most extraordinary men in the annals of Japan. Although he never actually ascended the throne, he was appointed regent under the Empress Suiko and held imperial powers and authorities. He is known to history as Shotoku Taishi, or Prince Shotoku. This brilliant leader combined political skill with a profound regard for the ethical foundations of a national culture. He realized that his people were divided by a lack of social vision. Shintoism was not strong enough from a doctrinal standpoint to overcome the prevailing conflict of factions and tribes. To unite the Japanese people, a philosophical concept which taught unity as a religious virtue and social requirement alone could meet the pressing need for immediate reforms. Shotoku proclaimed Buddhism as the state religion of Japan in AD 604 and immediately directed his attention to the expansion of the sect. Buddhism was already the dominant faith of Asia, and Japan, by adopting this system, aligned itself with the civilized races and states on the Asiatic mainland. This vastly increased the prestige of the island kingdom. Because of his resolute determination to disseminate the fundamentals of Buddhist doctrine, Shotoku came to be regarded as the incarnation or embodiment of one of the bodhisattvas of the Mahayana system. He stands as a political arhat, combining statesmanship and mystical enthusiasm. Shotoku published in 604 the Jushichi Kempo, a constitution consisting of 17 articles, often referred to as the first written law of Japan. This compilation is actually a collection of moral teachings depending for authority upon the human conscience and the internal integrity of the concepts. The substance of the 17 articles was derived from the teachings of Confucianism and Buddhism. The prestige of Shotoku as Prince Imperial caused this constitution to receive unusual consideration. With minor exceptions, this code or compilation of statutes could well guide the conduct of any community, ancient or modern. Although a small Buddhist temple was erected at Yamato in AD 522, it was not until the closing years of the 6th century that the King of Korea sent books, images, teachers, and holy relics to the court of the Mikado. The first Chinese monks are said to have reached Japan in 623, and the Emperor Kotoku Tenno, AD 645 to 654, became a sincere adherent and champion of Buddhist doctrines. The Kobukuji monastery at Nara was erected in 710. From this date to the end of the 12th century, teachers came from China, and Japanese monks visited the mainland in search of religious knowledge. Among the prominent Japanese Buddhist sects should be mentioned the Tendai, the Shingon, the Zen, the Jodo, the Nichiren, and the Shin. Each of these differs from the others, much as the Protestant denominations of Christianity have their creedal variants. The Tendaishu was founded by the Chinese monk Chisha Daishi. This sect emphasizes the law of meditation and seeks to recognize the supreme power of Buddha as it is concealed by and manifested through all the forms and attributes associated with the great teacher. The Shingonshu, which is deeply involved in mystical and magical formulas, is traced to Nagarjuna, who is said to have discovered the secret formulas in an iron pagoda in southern India. The Zenshu, or contemplative school, was founded in China by Bodhidharma Daruma, who lived in that country from AD 527 to 535. This school is highly intuitional and believes that the true doctrine can be imparted only by intuitional means. The Jodo Shu traces itself to the Indian patriarch Asvaghosha and also insists upon asceticism and meditation as the proper instruments of salvation. The Nichiren Shu is an indigenous Japanese development which will be discussed in greater detail. The Shinshu holds that salvation is dependent upon the inward visualization of the merciful power of the Buddha Amida. It has been termed the Protestantism of Japan, and its principal temples, known as the Hoduanji, are among the finest in the country. These sects, which maintain amicable relationship, gain comfort from the teachings of Nagarjuna, who reminded his disciples that in Buddhism there are many paths. Even as in the physical world, there are numerous roads. The non-militant program, which is essentially a part of Buddhist philosophy, never permitted the sect to proselyte by aggressive means. As a result, the differences between the imported philosophy and the native Shintoism were solved by arbitration. With the passing of time, a degree of blending was accomplished, and the two sects flourished together for more than 1,200 years without serious differences. The Buddhists simply interpreted Shintoism in terms of Buddhism, and the results were generally acceptable. Although not usually emphasized by historians, the Buddhism of Japan contributed a great deal to the preservation of Chinese culture. It is easier to study the religious arts of China, especially those of the Tang and Sung dynasties, through the Japanese exponents of these cultural epochs than in the scattered Chinese remains. The story of Buddhism in Japan, writes Kenneth J. Saunders, is almost the story of her civilization. There is little in her rich tapestry of art and religion which Buddhism has not inspired and molded. From this splendid background, there stands out certain great and notable epochs and certain great names. First and most far-reaching in its achievements is the era of Shotoku Taishi, 593 to 622, a contemporary of Muhammad and of Augustine of Canterbury, and like them, a founder of a new civilization. To impress visitors with this important cultural program, Shotoku caused the shrine of the four heavenly guardians to be established at a port on an inland sea. Thus, strangers arriving from Korea or China immediately beheld a beautiful group of buildings devoted to art, music, medicine, literature, and philosophy gathered about a monastery and shrine of the Buddhist faith. The prince went further. He carefully examined the vast Buddhist literature and chose those sutras or sections of scripture which would most directly benefit his people. These writings he disseminated as part of a broad educational program. Unfortunately, the genius of Shotoku did not pass to his descendants, but Buddhism was sufficiently established to survive and unfold among the Japanese. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.